To understand the rivalry and the stark differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum, we need to go back in time, not just to their birth, but to the world that created them in 2008. The global financial system trembled and crumbled, exposing a systemic fragility and breaking the trust of millions in banks and governments. Institutions that once seemed infallible. It was from the ashes of this crisis that an anonymous figure, known only as Satoshi Nakamoto, published a manifesto. It was not a call for reform, but a proposal for a complete abandonment of the old system, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. This was the birth of Bitcoin, a direct and rebellious response to the chaos. A coded tool of protest, the genius of Bitcoin lay in its focused simplicity. Its purpose was singular and immutable, to be a form of digital money with a finite supply of 21 million coins that could not be controlled, censored, or inflated by any central authority. It was designed to be digital gold, a secure and sovereign store of value in an uncertain world. However, as the world began to understand the power of this invention, a brilliant young programmer named Vitalik Buterin saw beyond. He realized that Bitcoin's underlying technology, the blockchain, was too powerful an invention to be used merely for recording transactions. To him, using the blockchain just for money was like using a supercomputer only as a calculator. Thus, in 2015, Vitalik's vision materialized with the launch of Ethereum. It was not created to be a better Bitcoin, but something entirely different. If Bitcoin was the answer to a broken financial system, Ethereum was the platform to build an entirely new system. From the ground up, the proposal was not to create a competitor to the dollar or gold, but rather a decentralized world computer, a global, programmable network where developers could create and run smart contracts and decentralized applications dApps for virtually any purpose. From finance and gaming to voting systems and new forms of social organizations, the genesis was complete. One was born as a manifesto of financial liberation, the other as a manifesto of limitless technological creation. Every great technology is defined by its language, and in the blockchain universe, this couldn't be more true. The most fundamental and consequential difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum lies not in their goals, but in their capacity for expression, dictated by their programming languages. Bitcoin uses what is known as Bitcoin script. By design, this is not a universal language. It is limited and focused. Think of it as the language of a high-security calculator. It executes simple mathematical operations, addition, subtraction, and logical checks. If X is the owner of this coin, then they can spend it with perfection and unshakable security. This limitation is, in fact, its greatest strength, as it drastically reduces the attack surface for bugs and hacks, ensuring the network's primary function, to securely transfer value, is executed with maximum robustness. Ethereum, on the other hand, was built to be the polar opposite. Vitalik Buterin knew that to create a world computer, a universally expressive language was necessary. Therefore, Ethereum introduced the concept of being Turing complete, which, in simple terms, means it can theoretically compute anything a normal computer can, given enough time and memory. Its primary language, Solidity, was created to write the smart contracts that run on the Ethereum virtual machine (EVM), the system's heart. The EVM acts as a global decentralized operating system, allowing developers to program complex logic, create rules, establish conditions, and automate interactions in a way that Bitcoin was simply not designed to do. This distinction is the source of all innovation and all chaos in the Ethereum ecosystem. While Bitcoin's language provides an environment of certainty and security for the function of money, Ethereum's flexibility opens a Pandora's box of infinite possibilities. It is because of its sophisticated language that we have decentralized finance DeFi that lends and earns interest without banks, non-fungible tokens NFTs that represent unique digital ownership, and decentralized autonomous organizations DAOs that operate without a management hierarchy. Bitcoin protects the value that exists. Ethereum provides the tools to create new kinds of value that never existed before. One is a digital vault, the other is a decentralized innovation factory. For a decentralized network to function without a central authority, it needs a method for all participants to agree on what is true. This method is called a consensus mechanism. Bitcoin uses the pioneering and most battle-tested system, proof of work, POW. In this model, miners around the world compete using powerful computers to solve an extremely complex mathematical puzzle. The first one to find the solution wins the right to add the latest block of transactions to the blockchain and is rewarded with new Bitcoin. This intense competition demands a massive amount of electrical energy, as the proof that the work was done lies in the computational expenditure itself. Bitcoin's security is, therefore, forged in the fire of energy and hardware, making it astronomically expensive and difficult for anyone to rewrite the network's history. For years, Ethereum also operated under proof of work, but its community, aware of the criticisms about environmental impact and scalability limitations, orchestrated one of the most audacious technical maneuvers in tech history, the merge. With this upgrade, Ethereum abandoned POW and adopted proof-of-stake POS. In this system, computational brute force is replaced by capital. Instead of miners, there are validators who, to participate in the process, must deposit and lock up stake a significant amount of their own cryptocurrency as collateral. A validator is then chosen to create the next block, and if they act maliciously, they are punished by losing part or all of their stake capital. Security, here, doesn't come from energy expenditure, but from direct economic incentive. It's a game where honesty is the most profitable strategy. The switch resulted in a reduction of over 99.9% in Ethereum's energy consumption, addressing its biggest environmental criticism. However, it also introduced a new philosophical debate. Proponents of Bitcoin's POW argue that energy-based security is the only truly decentralized and objective form, anchored in the laws of physics, whereas POS could lead to centralization, where the rich get richer, entities with more have more power and earn more rewards, creating a sort of digital aristocracy. POS advocates, in turn, see it as a natural evolution, a more efficient, sustainable, and scalable system, perfectly aligned with Ethereum's vision of being the foundation for a new digital economy. One system relies on raw work to secure the truth, the other relies on an economic stake in the truth. The monetary policy of a digital asset, or tokenomics, is the soul of its value proposition. In Bitcoin's case, that soul is forged in a principle of steel, absolute, and programmed scarcity. Bitcoin's code decrees that there will never be more than 21 million coins. This is not a goal or a promise. It is an immutable mathematical law at the heart of the protocol. To enforce this scarcity, the network undergoes an event known as the halving approximately every 4 years. In this event, the reward that miners receive for adding a block to the chain is cut in half, systematically, decreasing the rate of new Bitcoin creation. This design makes Bitcoin an inherently disinflationary asset, whose total predictability positions it as the ultimate sound money, an anchor against the rampant money printing of traditional economies. Ethereum adopts a radically different economic philosophy, born from its function as a world computer. It does not have a fixed maximum supply, a deliberate design choice to ensure the network always has the necessary fuel ether, or ETH, to sustain its ecosystem of applications. However, to call it simply inflationary is to ignore the complex dynamics implemented over time. The move to proof-of-stake POS already drastically reduced the issuance of new ETH. The true revolution in its monetary policy came with the EIP 1559 update, which fundamentally changed how transaction fees are handled by introducing a burning mechanism. The EIP 1559 mechanism dictates that a portion of every transaction fee paid on the Ethereum network is permanently destroyed or burned. This creates a constant deflationary pressure on the supply of ETH, which is directly proportional to network activity. During periods of high demand when many people are using dApps, trading NFTs, or making transactions. The amount of ETH burned can exceed the amount of new ETH issued to validators. This causes the total supply of ETH to decrease, a phenomenon that led the community to coin the term ultrasound money. Thus, we have two opposing philosophies: Bitcoins, whose value proposition lies in absolute and guaranteed scarcity, and Ethereum's, which seeks a dynamic, utility-based scarcity, where the asset's value is intrinsically linked to the growth and demand of its own digital economy. A blockchain network can have the most secure technology and the most robust monetary policy, but if it is slow and expensive, its real-world utility will be severely limited. Bitcoin was designed with a deliberate and methodical pace. A new block of transactions is added to its chain every 10 minutes, on average. This timing is not a bug, but a crucial design feature to ensure the network remains globally synchronized and extremely secure. The consequence, however, is a limited processing capacity on its main layer, handling only a few transactions per second. In times of high demand, this limited block space becomes a scarce and contested resource, which drives up transaction fees and increases wait times for confirmation, making it impractical for buying a coffee, but ideal for large value settlements. Ethereum, by its nature as a platform for applications, faces an even greater scalability challenge, with thousands of dApps and NFTs competing for space in the same block. Ethereum's mainnet became famous for its traffic jams and high gas fees. The transaction cost. To solve this, Ethereum's strategy is multifaceted and ambitious. The primary solution, already in wide use, is layered rollups. These are second-layer solutions that process thousands of transactions off the main chain quickly and cheaply, and then roll up and post a single, compressed summary back to the main Ethereum layer, thereby inheriting its security. Looking ahead, the major planned upgrade is danksharding, which will split the network's database into smaller pieces shards, allowing for the parallel processing of transactions and data, akin to upgrading a single road into a multi-lane superhighway. This entire race for efficiency is an attempt to solve what is known as the blockchain trilemma: the difficulty of creating a network that is simultaneously decentralized, secure, and scalable. Typically, to optimize one of these characteristics, you must sacrifice another. Bitcoin takes a conservative approach. It prioritizes security and decentralization on its base layer above all else, delegating scalability to upper layers like the Lightning Network. Ethereum, on the other hand, is willing to make complex and profound changes to its own protocol, like the move to POS and the future implementation of sharding, in conjunction with a Layer 2 ecosystem, to try and solve the trilemma and achieve the scale necessary to be the world computer. One seeks to be the most secure final court of appeal, the other, the most performant global superhighway. Bitcoin's ultimate goal has become increasingly clear and focused over the years: to be the best store of value for the digital age. The digital gold analogy is the most accurate. Like physical gold, Bitcoin is scarce, durable, and not controlled by any government or central bank. Its value proposition lies not in its ability to process millions of transactions per second for daily purchases, but in its capacity to preserve purchasing power over time in a secure and sovereign manner. The slowness and robustness of its base layer, once seen as a disadvantage, are now understood as essential features for this purpose. For an asset designed to store wealth for decades or centuries, impenetrable security and immutability are far more important than instant speed. Bitcoin does not aspire to be the internet's payment system, but rather the ultimate reserve asset upon which new financial systems can be built. In contrast, Ethereum's ultimate purpose is to be the foundational infrastructure upon which the next generation of the internet, Web 3, will be built. If Bitcoin is a finished product digital gold, Ethereum is a dynamic and constantly evolving development platform. The value of its asset, ETH, is intrinsically linked to the utility and demand of its network. The goal is not simply for people to hold ETH, but for them to actively use it as gas to execute smart contracts, as capital to interact with decentralized finance DeFi applications, and as the building block for creating new tokens and digital economies. Ethereum's vision is to power a vibrant ecosystem, becoming the settlement and security layer for everything from digital art and collectibles NFTs to autonomous organizations DAOs and digital identity systems. Therefore, the fundamental dichotomy in their purposes is this: Bitcoin seeks to separate money from the state, offering a neutral, global alternative that cannot be manipulated. Its success is measured by its market capitalization, liquidity, and adoption as a reserve asset by individuals, corporations, and potentially nations. Ethereum, in turn, seeks to separate data and application services from large tech corporations, big tech, offering an open, neutral platform where users control their own data and interact on a community-owned network. Its success is measured by its developer activity, the number of applications built, and the total value transacted within its digital economy. They are not necessarily competing for the same throne. One wants to be the vault, the other wants to be the entire city. The Bitcoin ecosystem is a direct reflection of its purpose as sound money. It is focused, secure, and conservative. The primary innovation that has flourished around it is the Lightning Network, a second-layer solution designed to solve the problem of speed and cost for small transactions. The Lightning Network allows users to open direct payment channels with each other, where they can transact Bitcoin almost instantly and with virtually zero cost. Only the final settlement of these transactions is recorded on the main blockchain layer. This makes Bitcoin viable for micropayments and daily use without compromising the security of the main network. Besides Lightning, there are sidechains like the Liquid Network, focused on providing liquidity and fast transactions between exchanges, and more recently, the controversial emergence of ordinals, which allow for the inscription of data, like images and text, onto the smallest unit of Bitcoin, creating a kind of native NFT that tests the limits of the network's original philosophy. In stark contrast, the Ethereum ecosystem is a chaotic and vibrant expanding digital megacity, a permissionless innovation laboratory. It is here that the money Legos concept comes to life. The backbone of this universe is decentralized finance DeFi, which rebuilds the entire traditional financial system in open source code. With applications like Uniswap, a decentralized exchange, and Ava lending platform on top of this foundation, the phenomenon of non-fungible tokens NFTs exploded, evolving from simple images to representing ownership of digital assets, event tickets, in-game items, and even fractions of real-world assets. And finally, we have decentralized autonomous organizations DAOs, new forms of online governance where communities can manage projects and collective treasuries, with rules enforced by smart contracts without the need for traditional corporate management. The nature of these two ecosystems reveals their fundamental philosophies. Development on Bitcoin is slow and deliberate, with an extreme focus on not introducing risks to the base layer. The community values stability and the optimization of its core function. The Ethereum ecosystem, on the other hand, thrives on experimentation. It is an environment where thousands of developers can launch new applications freely. Many fail. Some are exploited by hackers, but the pace of innovation is breathtaking, driven by a culture that values rapid building and evolution. One ecosystem is a fortress being constantly reinforced, the other is a frontier being constantly expanded. The Bitcoin community operates under a philosophy of almost sacred immutability. The central premise is that the protocol's rules, once established, should be as close to unchangeable as possible, much like the laws of physics. This rigidity is not seen as a limitation, but as the primary feature that guarantees trust in the system. The goal is to create a monetary base so solid and predictable that no one, not even its creators or influential figures, can alter it for their own benefit. The process for change through Bitcoin improvement proposals (BIPs) is intentionally slow, arduous, and requires overwhelming community consensus. This resistance to change is what protects the 21 million coin policy and assures its holders that the asset they own today will have the same properties tomorrow and in 100 years. Ethereum, in contrast, was born with a philosophy of pragmatic evolution. Its community, led by figures like Vitalik Buterin and the Ethereum Foundation, understands that for the network to achieve its ambitious vision of being a world computer, it must constantly adapt, evolve, and improve. Ethereum's history is marked by radical transformations that would be unthinkable in the world of Bitcoin. The most notorious example is the DAO fork, an intervention in the blockchain's early days to reverse a massive hack, a decision that prioritized justice for users over absolute immutability. More recently, the monumental transition from proof-of-work to proof-of-stake, the merge demonstrated a capacity and willingness to rebuild the plane's engine mid-flight to make it more efficient and sustainable. These two philosophies create a fascinating dilemma. Bitcoin's immutability gives it unparalleled credibility and trust as a neutral store of value. Its rigidity is its armor. However, critics argue that this same rigidity might make it slow to adapt to new threats or unable to incorporate innovations, risking it becoming a digital fossil. On the other hand, Ethereum's flexibility allows it to innovate at a breathtaking pace, but it introduces governance risk. The ability to change the protocol means it is subject to human influence and potentially controversial decisions, altering the social contract with its users. The fundamental question that separates them is, does value derive from unbending stability or from adaptive evolution? One is a rock, the other is a river. Bitcoin's path, despite its robustness, is fraught with significant challenges, most of which are external and social. Its greatest vulnerability is the incessant debate over the energy consumption of proof-of-work (POW). In a world increasingly focused on sustainability (ESG), the narrative of Bitcoin as an energy waster presents a formidable obstacle to its adoption by institutions and governments. Besides being an easy target for regulation, another challenge is its own scalability. Although the Lightning Network offers a solution, its adoption and usability are not yet universal, raising the question of whether Bitcoin can transcend its niche digital gold status to become a globally used settlement layer. Lastly, there's the debate over the long-term security budget. As block rewards diminish with each halving, the network will increasingly depend on transaction fees to pay for its security, and there is no clear consensus on whether these fees will be sufficient to keep the network impenetrable in the distant future. Ethereum's challenges, on the other hand, are largely internal and technical. Born from its own ambition, the most prominent risk is that of complexity. Ethereum's roadmap is a series of massive and highly technically complex upgrades. The successful migration to proof-of-stake was a feat, but the next steps, like sharding, are equally daring. A single critical bug or a flaw in one of these transitions could compromise billions of dollars in value and shake confidence in its entire ecosystem. Furthermore, proof-of-stake, while efficient, brings with it risks of centralization. Large entities, such as exchanges or staking pools, could accumulate a significant share of the staked ETH, granting them disproportionate influence over the network. Finally, Ethereum faces fierce competition from dozens of other smart contract platforms, the so-called Ethereum killers, which promise to be faster and cheaper, constantly fighting to steal its market share of developers and users. In short, both titans face existential battles, but on different fronts. Bitcoin's struggle is to maintain its relevance and social legitimacy in a rapidly changing world, without altering its core essence. It's a battle against external perception and the limitations of its simple design. Ethereum's struggle is to manage its own complex evolution, a race to deliver on its promises of scalability and performance without breaking in the process, all while fending off a horde of agile competitors. Bitcoin's challenge is to withstand time. Ethereum's challenge is to build the future in time. The question that looms over the entire market is whether the future holds a throne for only one king. The supremacy vision, advocated by maximalists on each side, presents the distinct scenarios. For Bitcoin advocates, in the long run, the only property that matters is monetary soundness. They argue that, eventually, all value will seek the most secure, decentralized asset with the most credible monetary policy. In this future, Bitcoin would become the base layer of the entire digital financial system, the gold upon which everything is built, and more complex, risky assets like ETH would be seen as mere tech stocks, not competing on the same level. On the other side, proponents of Ethereum's supremacy believe that utility drives value. They predict that as the Web3 economy grows, the demand for ETH as the fuel for that economy will make it a more productive and, therefore, more valuable asset, eventually surpassing Bitcoin in market capitalization and becoming the internet's primary store of value. However, a future of coexistence seems not only more likely, but also more logical, given their fundamentally different purposes. Instead of direct competitors, Bitcoin and Ethereum can be seen as the complementary layers of a new financial and digital system. Bitcoin is consolidating its position as digital gold, the ultimate store of value, the risk-off asset of the crypto ecosystem, the safe harbor for long-term capital. Ethereum, in turn, is becoming the global innovation and application layer, a decentralized financial and technological hub, like a digital New York City, where capital, including Bitcoin itself, in the form of wrapped tokens like WBTC, can be put to work, generate yield, fund new ideas, and power the Web3 economy. In this scenario, a strong Bitcoin benefits Ethereum by providing it with a solid collateral base, and a strong Ethereum benefits Bitcoin by giving its capital a productive purpose. Ultimately, the true legacy of the duel between Bitcoin and Ethereum may not be the victory of one over the other, but the revolution their competition has catalyzed. Together, they have proven to monumental things to the world. Bitcoin proved that decentralized digital scarcity is possible, creating a sovereign and global form of value. Ethereum proved that logic and finance can be decentralized, creating an open platform for permissionless innovation. The rivalry between them forces both to be better, more secure, and more efficient. Therefore, the final question is perhaps not which one will win, but how we, as a society, will adapt and build upon the two radically new foundations they have given us. The duel continues, but the world we once knew has already been forever transformed.